April 1945. Berlin was dying. The city that once roared with parades now groaned under the weight of rubble and smoke. Soviet artillery thundered across the Spree, walls shuttered, and air raid sirens wailed with mechanical despair. In the Chancellery's bunker, the light was yellow and sour, flickering against maps that no longer meant anything. But in one of the upper offices of the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, the German High Command, an officer sat hunched over a wooden table, staring at a typewritten document with trembling fingers. He was Oberstleutnant Franz Kuhn, a signals intelligence officer. His job for 6 long years had been to keep the Reich's communications secure, to maintain the sacred trust of Enigma. And yet, in the collapsing ruins of Hitler's empire, whispers had begun. They came from captured officers, from field reports that made no sense. Convoys vanishing before U-boats arrived. Allied bombers striking fuel depots hours after orders were sent. Counteroffensives crushed before they began. Kuhn had dismissed it all as coincidence, until now. Spread before him were intercepted Allied intelligence summaries, reports from U.S. and British divisions recovered from destroyed headquarters near Aachen. They contained German messages, word for word, exactly as they had been sent through Enigma. Dates, unit movements, even code phrases unique to the High Command. His stomach twisted. "No, impossible," he muttered, dragging a hand through his hair. The Enigma was unbreakable, unbreakable. It had 7 rotors, daily key changes, plugboard ciphers, discipline drilled into every operator. Even if one machine was captured, the keys changed too often to matter. But the proof sat right there on his desk, a cruel mirror of every message he'd sent into the ether. A major burst through the door, uniform unbuttoned, face streaked with grime. "Herr Oberhauptmann, we have confirmation from Flensburg. The British are using our naval grid references. They're reading them, sir." Kuhn didn't answer. He reached for the Enigma machine on his desk, running his fingers along its brass fittings, the cool weight of its keys. The lamps winked dully back at him, mechanical eyes that suddenly felt traitorous. "How long?" the major asked. "How long have they been—" Kuhn's voice cracked. "Since before Kursk, perhaps. Before Normandy. God knows how long they've been listening." He remembered Donitz's fury, the endless complaints from U-boat captains who swore the British were waiting for them, the frantic efforts to add a 4th rotor, to replace codebooks, to invent Triton. All the while, Bletchley Park had already adapted. Every countermeasure had been answered before it was even deployed. Outside, a dull explosion shook dust from the rafters. Someone shouted down the corridor, boots clattering. Kuhn barely heard it. He was staring at the machine as though it might speak back. "We trusted numbers. We thought perfection made us untouchable." He pressed a key. The light flicked on beneath a letter. A became key. The machine still worked, still beautiful in its precision, but the spell was gone. Down the hall, an officer cursed as a messenger tripped over a coil of wire. The bunker smelled of smoke and sweat. Over the radio, static hissed. Broken German cut with the thud of distant artillery. "Berlin to all stations. Repeat, all stations." The voice was lost in interference. Kuhn unplugged the Enigma from its power source. The lamps died one by one, until only the echoes of shell fire filled the room. He lifted the machine, its weight heavy and final in his hands, and set it gently into its wooden crate. Then he locked it. He looked up at the major. "Destroy the rest. Every codebook, every key sheet. Burn them." The major hesitated. "Does it matter any more?" Kuhn exhaled.
eyes hollow. No, but it's all that's left to do. As they worked, the city above them crumbled. Soviet tanks were already on Wilhelmstrasse. The Reich was ending, not in glory, but in code, in a cipher that had betrayed its masters without ever changing a single letter. When the British entered Berlin weeks later, they found dozens of Enigma machines stacked like coffins in the ruins of government buildings. Some were smashed, others still gleamed under layers of dust. The soldiers didn't linger. They'd seen them before, too many times, too late for the enemy to understand. In a quiet office back in England, Alan Turing was told of the war's end. He didn't cheer. He simply nodded, adjusted his tie, and returned to his papers. Outside, the spring rain began to fall over Bletchley Park, washing away the last stains of secrecy. The machines were powered down, one by one. The hum that had filled the huts for years finally stopped. And across the channel in the ruins of Berlin, the last German signal officer stared at his silent machine and realized the unbreakable code had been broken all along.